Okay, it's Friday, April 16th, 2021. And Megan, I don't know if you're just getting lazy or if you're, really interested in recycling. But your arguments are just really just repetitive. Um, Specifically when you don't want to have to defend the Republican for whom we're speaking, about whom we're speaking. So the topic at the beginning is about Jim Jordan in the House yesterday, giving just being a complete asshole to Dr. Fauci, over talking and making accusations and basically giving speeches without actually trying to advance any kind of information or knowledge or um, I don't even know what the hearing was about, quite frankly. I just know he was being a dick. Uh, and so, of course, your response to the topic, which is this exchange between Jim Jordan and Dr. Fauci, and why is this such a personal and political football when it's really a public health issue? Um, your answer is to just go off and talk about Governor Newsome. We'll get to that in a second. Um, but you start off by saying, this is a bad look for Congress altogether, basically doing a both sidesism. And I don't know if you've been paying attention for the last, I don't know, 12 years, but the House Republicans have been doing this kind of bullshit political theater for over a decade, where they go and they grandstand and they yap and they yap and they yap, but they don't actually want to solve anything. They're literally just being contrarian. Grandstanding and, taking a high moral ground and, getting all upset and then contradicting themselves 4 years later. So yeah, your party has a history of doing this really repetitively and with great vigor. So let's not both sides. Jim Jordan is just being a dick because that's what he does. By the way, I've never heard you, call out Jim Jordan and call for the investigation of his sexual misconduct by allowing high school and college athletes to be molested by their coaches by the hundreds. I don't know what you usually all up on that moral ground. I don't even know why Jim Jordan is still in fucking Congress. But anyway, so you say it's beneath Congress, and then you say it's really just easy for people to say Republicans are just being contrarian and to blame them. And then you do the whole thing about Governor Newsome, which we'll get to in a second. But then you immediately follow that up with your big speech you've been giving over and over again about the true nature of Republicans, right? And what they feel at the core and what you feel at your core. And the first thing you say is, by nature, Republicans are contrarian. So us saying, look at there's Jim Jordan just being contrarian is bad. But you saying, by nature, Republicans are contrarian is a justification. I don't think you get to have that both ways. And you mistrust of big government, right? And you're not going to bend at the knee of what big government says. And first of all, this is a public health and safety issue. This is not a government issue. And at the very end, you say to lay the blame of this being politicized at the foot of the Republicans is intellectually dishonest. Fuck you. When did this become political? At the very beginning, from Trump, who perpetuated that politicization, whatever that word is. The politicized, who perpetuated politicizing the virus? All your fucking GOP friends on Capitol Hill, Gates and Jordan and all the rest of that fucking well, pedophile crew. So it's the Republicans who started from the very beginning politicizing this public health and safety issue. So it's not intellectually dishonest. You just don't want to hear it. And you talk about, and Jordan talked about, personal liberties. And, you know, it's in the Constitution, blah, blah, blah. The problem is, and what you're talking about, what you're actually describing in the way that you say Republicans see the world is really libertarianism. That's what you're describing, which is, you know, personal liberty and personal responsibility comes first. And that system really just sets up for anarchy. It doesn't help anyone. And that's the biggest problem with your entire party, is that you're so focused on this personal liberty bullshit, and you're very specific about what your liberties are, and it really doesn't extend to anyone else's liberties. Because your personal liberty ends when it then infringes upon someone else's personal liberty, and you guys don't get that. When your personal liberty makes it more difficult for someone else to live or to have equal rights to and access under the law, your personal liberties are then squashed by the greater good. You've got zero comprehension of the moral responsibility for a society. And that's where we all fall apart, right? You want personal liberty to apply to, you know, all of your guns, and you know, being able to run around, you know, as virus filled as you want and doing whatever you want without any accountability for what that does to other people. You call yourselves this, and you yourself say you're very pro-life. You call yourselves this party that is pro-life. And that is only in the sense that you are against abortion. You are not pro-life when you are pro-gun. When you're pro running off to the you know, to the bars, infecting as many people as you want because it's your right. You guys are so fucking lost, and it boggles my mind you can't see it, and the twisted logic you come through. You know, you go on this tirade about Gavin Newsome just because you like to pick on him. Again, you're just being because he's a Democrat. You have to say something against him, calling, you know, the law's draconian, blah blah blah. Your example, when you say he had a film crew that was working in front of a bar that was closed by mandate, and you call that being political about the virus. That's an economic decision, not a political one. And an outdoor space isn't the same as a tiny little, you know, fully enclosed bar. It's an airborne virus. I don't understand how you guys don't get that it's an airborne virus. And so the surroundings in which you are important. Anyway, I don't think it's intellectually dishonest to blame the Republicans for the politicizing this pandemic, and all of this political theater is bullshit. You guys want to mistrust big government, then why are you willingly, you know, registering your cars, and you're required to get insurance on a car to be able to drive it. You have to. That's the government telling you what to do, but you do it and you don't complain about it. You have to insure your house to get a mortgage. That's part of the deal, but you don't complain about that. That's big government telling you what to do. Why aren't you marching in the streets for your liberty to, let your house burn down? I don't get your logic. And the fact that you insist that your liberty is more valuable than anyone else's liberty is so hypocritical. Then we talk about whether or not you can be friends with an ex. And you just flat out no. I think you said, if someone sees me naked, that's it, and we'll never be speaking again. So, as someone who likes to always talk about nuance, you can't possibly fathom that a person that you cared a great deal about and had a sexual relationship with, you couldn't continue to care a great deal about without the sexual relationship, and still be in contact. You can't transition your thought and an emotional baggage about one thing, and let it, without it interfering and wrecking something that was good. I mean, I get it. It's fairly common, but that inability to just see something other than that one thing that you want it to be is, it parallels how you see the Republican Party. You see the Republican Party in this old-fashioned way that I don't even think ever existed, that you sort of got in some sort of fantasy version as a kid from your dad. And as long as you've been alive, this Republican Party has been going straight down the path that it's been getting to, and getting worse and worse and more bold about just being, anti-government. They don't want to govern. And so that actually is a really good point. If Republicans are against big government, why are you even there? Why are you running? Why are you putting candidates in big government to try to dismantle it? Is that the point? Maybe now we're getting to understand. If you're against big government, why are you in it? Huh. Let's noodle over that one for the weekend, since we know you won't be watching the royal funeral.